Greetings, fellow replicants. I ask you, have you had any good dreams about electric sheep recently? I certainly have, and you can too, with Free League's Blade Runner RPG. Let's take a look.
All right, today, fellow replicants, let's take a look at the Blade Runner RPG by Free League. Number one, this cover is very cool. I like the trench coat. I like the spinner slowly coming down. Very cool. Yes. With this book, I now have every Free League core book. So to start, you get this nice map of Los Angeles. You get the guys who are always everywhere. You get chapter one, the basically the background and a little bit about the system and what it's going for and some themes and stuff. Chapter two is about making your Blade Runner. Three is your skills and stuff. Four is combat and chases. Five is going to be about the city of Los Angeles itself, all the sectors, which is really, really interesting lore stuff if you love the Blade Runner movies. Then you got the powers at B, chapter 6, which is basically a lot of the factions, all about replicants and the media and the corporations. 7 is about working the case, because it's basically a mystery case. So if you like stuff like Cthulhu and things like that, it is very much more of like a police procedural, but there is combat and stuff. So, it's a balance of both worlds. You could play it either way. 8 is all about your gear and stuff. And then 9 is about running the system. And there's a lot of stuff on how to make cases, which was my big thing about being on the fence with this book. Was I was like, I don't know if I can make a police procedural. But I kind of looked around. I was able to find some images of the case file generator and just some images of the book. And I was like, oh, I get it now. Oh, yeah, they got a lot of stuff to really help you really set it up to give it that Blade Runner feel, which was my biggest concern. So it's very cool. And then you got a letter from Thomas, and he's basically saying how Blade Runner really got him into this whole thing in the first place. It's a very good letter, little preface there, preface. So you get the first image. These images, these splash pages are so great. It talks about the background. I'm not going to go through any of that. You don't need me to read to you. It talks about the rise of the megacorps. Basically, the whole history, the general history of Blade Runner to kind of get you in there. Then it has the timeline with the alternate 90s and on timeline. Yeah, man, this really stinks. We're over here, and where's my spinner? I don't have a spinner. Man, TV lied to me. It talks about what Los Angeles is like. I love all these art pieces. They're not stills. Like back in the 80s, this would have been like a movie still kind of TTRPG, which they did a lot in the day. So I'm really glad that they kind of spent the money and they spent it well and made all these really awesome kind of pictures to really, bring you in. Talks about what it's like about being a Blade Runner. And then you can play, which I like, you can play humans or replicants. So that's cool. There's the key themes, which is the sci-fi action, the character drama, the corporate intrigue, I know words, moral conflicts, and like soul searching, because you can really play this game either way. Are you a replicant or are you not? Then it kind of talks about just the rolling the dice and player versus player. So in this system, it's the other version of Free League's Mutant Year Zero, Year Zero engine system, not the D6 version. They have one more version, which probably the most popular, or I think the only other system that uses it off the top of my head is Twilight 2000, which I played a tiny little chunk of. I didn't get that far in it. So instead of a dice pool of D6s, it's really weird. It's like a dice-ish pool of 2 dice, and you're going to roll for that same successes. So I don't have the really cool special dice. Maybe I'll buy the starter set so I can get the dice for basically the price of the dice. I don't know. It's some weird system. Like starter sets are basically the cost of just buying dice. So you might as well buy that and get a reference book of the rules and a really cool adventure. So I'll probably do that soon. But basically, all these cool dice, and you're gonna have two dice. You're gonna have your base die and basically your skill die, and they're gonna be different grades. And I'll go through that in a minute. But you're gonna basically get a success on a 6, 7, 8, or 9. Those have 1 success rating on them. 10, 11, and 12 are 2 success ratings. And before you're talking about specialty dice, no, you don't really need them. You can just memorize 1 through 6, or 6, 7, 8, and 9 is 1 success. 10, 11, 12 is 2 successes. There's really no need for the specialty dice unless you're a dice goblin like me, and those are really cool dice. So making your Blade Runner. So you have a couple steps here. You're going to choose or roll if you're a human or replicant. And if you really want to get into that crazy, Blade Runner vibe, have the GM roll it. And then keep it a secret and kind of feed you stuff. Are you? Are you not? You could be like Deckard and just be like, am I? It depends. Am I the Deckard in the book? Am I the Deckard in the movie? Or am I the Deckard in the director's cut? Depending on those, you don't know which one am I, right? Then you get to choose your archetype, and there's archetypes for humans and replicants. So you can roll on the table. It's slightly different. So humans can be the analyst, the city speaker, enforcer, fixer, inspector, or skimmer. Replicants can be an analyst, a doxy, an enforcer, a fixer, and an inspector. So there's a little crossover, but there's 2 on each side that only a human can be, and 2 only a replicant can be. Then you're going to choose how many years you have on the force, determine your attributes, calculate your health and resolve, choose your skills, choose your role for a starting ability, choose or roll your key relationship, get your standard issue gear, choose your role for signature item, choose a role for your appearance, same thing for your name, and then describe yourself, and then hit the streets. So what's really interesting is the years on the force is going to change, kind of like Dragonbane or some of their other games where you can roll and figure out, your age. But in this, it's going to talk about your description. So you're rookie, are you seasoned, a veteran, or an old timer? And with that, it changes your attributes, changes your skills, specialties, and things like that. So again, so you're going to have in your attributes, which you don't really need to write them this way. They're leveled A, B, C, or D, but you could just go by die type 12, 10, 8, and 6. So basically, when you start your first character, you're going to be a C level or a D8, and then you're able to adjust the scores and bring some up, bring some down, and then you're going to be able to spend points to change those. You're going to be spending downtime, which is a part of this game. So when you're not on the case, you're going to kind of recharge yourself through your downtime, going back to your apartment, going to the bar, going this, doing that, whatever. Your starting skills, same thing. They're going to be on the same ranking. So, for example, I might have an attribute of a D10, and I might have an attribute of a skill of a D6. So I'm going to roll both the D10 and the D6 and see if I can get at least a 6 or higher. And if I can get a 10 or higher, then I really succeed with basically a crit, essentially. What's really cool is designing your key memory. So you can roll or choose or make up your own some key memories. So like, when did it happen? During childhood, memory table 2, in the derelict housing projects of Los Angeles. What was it? Who was there? Your romantic partner. Who? Number 4, what happened? Suffered a breach of trust or betrayal. So that's kind of like your key memory. So you could work on it from your human, or if you're a replicant, that's like your programmed memories essentially. Oh, and table number 5. How did it make you feel? Jaded or haunted. So you're going to use those relationships in the game, and by using those and playing to those, you're going to gain experience points. And you can build some relationships. Your gear. So in here, you don't really need a whole bunch of gear because you're on the force. You're kind of issued standard gear, but you can get cooler gear. Talks later about that by cashing in your promotion points. You're going to roll up your home. It talks about your promotion points. So promotion points are kind of like your experience points. while you're playing the game. After the game, you're going to get these points. And one of the things you can do, you can gain a new specialty. You can also use it to roll connections in the Force. If you need to pull a favor, you can use your experience essentially to pull favors and get things done for you. You can also use your connection skill and this promotion point to basically use your Qin Yen, which is the currency in the game. You don't really need to buy stuff essentially. It's almost like a ranking. So by buying that and kind of pushing, you're like pushing for a pay raise, and through that, you can get additional equipment and things. So it just goes through a couple roles that you can be, like the analyst, the city speaker, the doxy. Look at all this great art. Enforcer, the fixer, the inspector, the skimmer, and that's it. And then it talks about some of the skills and specialties you're going to have. So in here you have your basic skills. The only one that's different in this game that doesn't tie up like the other games do is driving. Driving's its own separate skill that doesn't work with an attribute. So in here you're going to roll your driving, your maneuverability essentially, with the spinner, so that each spinner has its own, or other vehicle has its own drive ability. So you roll those two dice together to do anything. For either a strength or agility skill, you're going to take 1 point of damage. And if you push with intelligence or empathy, you're going to get 1 point of stress. So as those build up, it's going to be a big problem. Same thing, you can get disadvantage and advantage. You got your opposed rolls that you do. Talks about all the different skills you can have, all the different specialties you have. Then it goes into combat and chases. So this is very zoned. So you can use zones on a battle map if you kind of want to, but I prefer to. I mean, Free League Mutant Year Zero engine is really good for theater of the mind. I think it really works on an abstract instead of counting and moving figures here and there. I think it's really keyed for narrative storytelling as opposed to like tactical storytelling. So it talks about all the different actions and movements you can make, grappling, and things like that. Ranged combat. Your damage. So everything does flat damage. So you don't roll your damage dice. It just does flat damage. And my favorite of the Year Zero engine, they always have these awesome injury tables. So when you're broken, you're not dead, but you're going to roll on the injury table. So if you suffer a crushing blow, you're going to have different things like broken nose, broken fingers, broken leg. Or you could have a crushed skull and instantly die. Same with critical injuries on piercing. So you're going to have your ear torn off, or a cracked skull, punctured lung, brains blown out, which is instant death, and also a shattered head. Talks about your stress and your resolve. So whenever you push a roll, you're going to suffer stress. And also, if you go more than 3 shifts without any downtime, you're going to get stress. So there's different types of stress factors, and it gives, so like being threatened with violence gives you 1 stress. Being interrogated gives you 2 stresses. When you're broken by stress, you're going to roll on this table. So this is for humans. So you live in fear, or you have no choice. You surrender to whatever obstacle you are facing, things like that. And replicants get their own. Let me tell you about my mother. You must immediately attack the nearest person, friendly or not. So basically you go nuts like in the show. So to relieve that stress, you need your downtime, and you can recover by your signature item or by pulling yourself together. There's other types of hazards: falling, explosions, fire, drowning. And then we get vehicle combat, which is really cool. So you can do some ramming. And when you do damage and you basically destroy all the armor of that spinner, then it suffers a critical vehicle damage, which is really cool. You can skid out, you can hit the driver, hit the passenger, disable the weapons. You can cause it to just explode. Talks about chasing, so the whole pursue situation. So number one, each participant selects a maneuver in secret, and these are the maneuvers. And then the game master randomly generates an obstacle and reveals what's going to happen. And then the pursuer and the prey both reveal their maneuver. And then maneuvers are resolved with the prey going first and the pursuer last. So whatever you do, if you pursue or flee, either can do that. And then the skill is mobility, driving, or you can hide. So only the prey can do this. So they're going to do stealth driving versus observation. Pursuer can cut them off, which is mobility driving versus mobility driving. So it's an opposed roll on that one. So it's really cool. It's very quick and just roll some dice and then kind of see what happens. Then the same thing for foot chases. Here's some obstacles. Ground vehicle chase obstacles. And aerial vehicle chase obstacles. So that's really cool. Could be a huge fiery explosion from an industrial site, mushrooms toward the vehicles. Each driver must make a separate driving roll to avoid it. Failure means D6 points of damage and that the chosen maneuver for the round fails. So I like all this flavor instead of having the GM have to come up with it. I love just rolling on a table. That way, as the GM, I get to be surprised. So I'm not just telling you this story, I'm just presenting you with the story and waiting for you to figure out what to do, and then I just kind of judge whether that's capable or not. So I get a chance to kind of also be surprised by the players, by the story of what's going on. So I'm also along for the ride, which makes it really fun. There's all these newspapers, and I think in the starter set there's a lot of handouts with these like newspapers and photos and things like that. Oh, it's open. Aitemasu. A divided city. So this talks all about the city, the Great Divide, with the high side, the High Alliance and the low. You got your camera and computer. It's an electric store. I'm showing off. Same thing. Yeah, this was very cool. It was very influential on part of my journey in the 90s. So it goes over all the main sectors. So you have the entertainment district, the arts district, the industrial district, the central district, the commercial district, the LAX spaceport. So I guess you could technically fly into space. Although, no, you can't leave LA. No one leaves LA. This is your standard apartment for a Blade Runner, which is kind of cool. I like that picture of the downtime. So it goes over not only the map, but also kind of things that are going on that you could use. The seawall, other than downtown, outside of LA, you're not going there. Off-worlds. And then the powers. So this talks about a little bit about the information of the different governments. So the UN, the LA Justice Department, the LAPD, the other interests like off-world immigration, colonization defense, other corporations, the TV entertainment periodicals, different criminal enterprises, the Wallace Corporation gives stats. And then it goes over the Nexus 5s, 6s, 8s, and 9s, and then the 7s. And then it talks a little bit more about the replicants. Then it talks about working the case. You got the hierarchy of ranks, which is helpful to know. Talks about the different divisions, the resources you can have. So when you are going to use your LAPD resources, so say you want to pull an autopsy on the victim, you have to go to the crime lab, and it's going to take about a shift. Oh, that was a bad choice. There's no promotion units needed. You can just easily do that. But if you want some kind of rare equipment, I don't know, a SWAT vest or something like that, SWAT jacket, you need to go to the armory for a day or more. It's going to take like 3 promotion points and a connections roll to try to see if you can sequester that equipment. Talks about building a reputation around town, and then your basic procedure on what you're going to do to solve the case. So you're going to claim your territory, document your facts, profile some people, form a hypothesis, build your case, maintain your cover, and cover your ass. So it gives you some examples of how to kind of play in the Blade Runner world, which is really cool. Also, how to kind of examine a crime scene. So that's really cool how it kind of tells you how to really play instead of just the dice. And then it goes over all the cool gear in the Blade Runner universe. The Voight-Kampff machine, that's a classic. You got all these cool guns. You got the blaster, right? Awesome, awesome stuff. And you can technically get some synthetic gear. Like if you get damaged or something like that, you can actually get some things like medical implants, prosthetics arm, prosthetic legs. It's rare and it costs a lot, but you can get it, or you could just hand wavium it as the GM, and it could be part of the story. Like if they get broken and get their arm blasted off, that you could kind of use the synthetic augmentations and maybe build on that as part of the story and really, deepen the connection. Then we go over the detective spinners, which are really cool. I love this line art of the spinner, very detailed, and it talks about what every little point is. The LAPD spinners, the spinner carrier, the spinner cycle, the public transportation, some shopping areas, what other stuff you can buy, black markets, and then the best part, I really love this, that they put in this running Blade Runner. It talks about, how to make the scenes, how to make the case. So you got to make it like an hour-long TV show, basically, or 2 hours or whatever. Right? But that kind of beginning, middle, end, So it talks all about how to kind of set that up. And then, what's very nice, gives you the downtime events, some things you can do, but right here, the promotion, the non-player characters. So this is where you have all the essential enemies. They're just some line items. So like street urchins, doxy, replicant sympathizers, lab technicians, those kind of guys. And then right here you have the how to make the case file. So you have the theme. So it could be replicant crime and punishments, monitored entities, technologies. And then for each one of these, you're going to go to this table. So each one is a D10 for each of these themes. So on here, if you have a replicant crime, it could be a replicant accuses their employer of unlawful murder of a replicant coworker. Ooh, what is that about? And then, that just goes to the rest of them. Oh, Los Angeles. And then you have your the main NPCs for each of those. So your occupation, their quirk, first name, last name. So you can quickly build a case real quick. What sector it takes place in, what locations in that sector. So it goes through each sector. It could be in the game center or the fish market. So each location, so it really keys really nice. So you have a specific thing for each location. And then you have different clues like some forensic evidence, could be some ballistics, DNA, fingerprints, or rumors in the street, that kind of thing. Then table 6 is like a twist, like an NPC is deranged and completely unpredictable. And then the final confrontation, so you could roll this a couple times. The final confrontation could be a ruin, could be a mansion, and then has a little environment like overgrown, fog, red dust, and then mood pieces. So what's the weather like? What's on the screen? What's passing by? You can roll those throughout the game. And then you have the index. And then the character sheet and the time report. So it's really important in Blade Runner that you kind of keep track of the time because the case is moving on while your guys are going to and from. And the other thing with the time in this game is it's also really important that you can actually split the party. So they go over to this, they're going over downtown to look at the evidence there, and you're going across town to look at the evidence there, and then you're going to come together, talk about the evidence, and then you're going to carry on with the case. So it really works as this really good police procedural. I think they really nailed it with this day 1 through 7 and the different shifts and keeping track of it, and also allowing you to split the party just like you would. You wouldn't always be hip and hip. You really got to solve the case in a specific amount of time, or they're going to get away with it or get away or whatever. So it's really cool. I really like what they did, and I'm looking forward to play this. And I hope that you look forward to it too, and increase your collection of Free League game books like I have. And until next time, we meet again on Rocket Punch. See ya.